Let's get straight to the point. Gaming laptops can get really expensive, right? So what if you could actually get solid performance without emptying your bank account? That's where the Acer Nitro V15 comes into play. With an Intel Core i5-13450HX and an RTX 2050, it seems like a good deal on paper. But the real question is, does it actually live up to the expectation, or is it just another gaming laptop with impressive specs that falls short in real-world performance? Now don't expect this to be a high-end gaming machine that can handle 4K at max settings. But for the price, it's honestly more capable than I expected. So let's break it down. Does the Acer Nitro V15 lives up to the promise of being a budget-friendly gaming laptop, or is it just all talk? For everyone watching from Dehradun, Uttarakhand, this laptop is provided to us by Digital Stores, one of the largest and most trusted laptop stores in the city. They offer a wide range of laptops from top brands at some of the best prices. Want to know more about the Digital Stores? Check out the details linked in the description box down below. It has a clean, understated design with just a few grey and blue accents on the lid that adds a bit of personality without going overboard. No flashy lights, no trying too hard gamer aesthetics, it's just simple and practical, with a little hint to its gaming capabilities without shouting it from the rooftops. When it comes to the build quality, it's solid for the price. The top lid does have a tiny bit of flex when you press on it, but honestly, it's nothing to worry about. It's just enough to remind you it's designed to be portable, not a bulky tank. The keyboard deck has some flex too, especially in the middle, but it's not something that interferes with typing. Overall, it feels durable enough for everyday handling, whether you are throwing it in your bag or using it on your couch. And here's the thing that bugged me last year with the 4050 version, and it's still present here: the exhaust vents. They are positioned right by the hinge, which means hot air blows straight toward the screen. If you're gaming or putting the laptop through its space, that area near the hinge can get pretty warm. It's not a deal breaker, but definitely something to keep in your mind if you're planning on to use it for extended sessions. Now the keyboard isn't going to wow you, but it works perfectly fine. I've spent hours typing on it without any issue. No sore fingers or discomfort. The backlight keys are a nice touch, and I like how they automatically turn off after a few seconds of inactivity. As for the touchpad, it's a decent size, sitting just below the spacebar. The one issue I've had is that it's a little off center to the left, so I end up pressing my palm against it while typing. It's not a huge problem, but it does cause the cursor to jump around occasionally, and you will find yourself in the wrong spot, wondering how you get there. It's one of those things you can live with, but it's definitely a little annoying. The Nitro V15 doesn't mess around when it comes to the port. For the size and the price, it offers a solid selection. 3 USB-A ports, 1 USB Type-C, and an Ethernet jack, a 3.5mm audio jack, and a lone HDMI port. The only thing that's a bit awkward is the layout. Most of the ports are all crammed to the left side, leaving only a USB-A and a headphone jack on the right side. It would have been nice to have another USB-C port on the right side for the symmetry, but it's not a deal breaker. Now let's talk about the power port, and this is where I ran into frustration. The port is just a bit too tight, and plugging in the power adapter takes more effort than you'd expect. I learned this the hard way, plugged in the charger, thought everything was fine, and then came back a couple of hours later to a completely dead laptop. Turns out I hadn't pushed the plug deep enough. It's not a huge issue, but if you are in a rush or a little forgetful like I am, it's easy to think the laptop's charging when it's actually not. Now let's talk about the display on this laptop. It comes with the 144Hz refresh rate, which is fast enough to make your games look smooth and responsive. Sure, it's not quite the 165Hz you get on the high-end models, but 144Hz hits that sweet spot, great for gaming and decent for everything else. As for brightness, it's just okay at 251 nits. When it comes to the colors, don't expect anything to pop. The sRGB coverage is 68.2%, which is good enough for casual gaming or Netflix watching. But if you're someone who needs color accuracy, like a designer or photographer, this screen might leave you wanting more. But here's the twist: despite somewhat limited color range, the Delta E score of 0.14 is actually pretty impressive. This means the colors are accurate right out of the box. So while the screen might not impress you with its color depth, at least it's honest about what it's showing. It's like being in a decent spot at a concert, close enough to enjoy the show, but not quite close enough to catch all the details. Acer Nitro V15 isn't trying to be the fastest thing on the block, but it definitely holds its own. With 16GB of DDR5 5200MHz RAM, multitasking is a breeze. For storage, you have got two M.2 slots, one for a Zen 4 SSD and another for Zen 3. Neither is slow, and it's nice having the flexibility. When it comes to the cooling, the Nitro V15 does the job. It's got 2 fans, 3 heat pipes and a top mounted heat sink and heat spreaders. Nothing too flashy, but it gets the job done. Whether you are gaming, editing or just watching videos, the laptop stays reasonably cool. The i5-13450HX in the Nitro V15 really impressed me, especially when compared to the competitors like the Ryzen 5 7645HX and the i7-12650H. From my perspective, its multi-core performance is the real highlight. With the highest Cinebench R23 score among the three, it easily outpaced the Ryzen 5 and the i7. This makes it a solid choice if you are into multitasking, content creation, or anything that needs strong multi-core performance. For single-core tasks, it's no slow either. In my usage, it handles single-threaded applications like office work and even some demanding tasks without any problems. Geekbench 6 result tells a similar story. The 13450HX leads in multi-core performance, showing it's well equipped for heavy workloads that needs multiple cores firing at once. For single-core performance, the Ryzen 5 edges out slightly, but the i5 still holds strong, especially compared to the i7, which still lags behind. In real-world applications like the Blender 3.3, the 13450HX performed well. For example, in the classroom CPU test, it completed the task in 387 seconds, showing that the 13450HX is well optimized for practical heavy-duty tasks like 3D rendering. Gaming performance was another area where the i5 stood out. In the 3D Mark TimeSpy test, it clearly outperformed both the Ryzen 5 and the i7-12650H. From my experience, this translates to smoother gameplay and better performance in resource-heavy games. I mean, you won't be able to game on the i5 except some games that rely heavily on the CPU. For me, it strikes a great balance, especially if you're looking for a laptop that can handle a mix of productivity, creative work, and gaming. Esports titles like CSGO and Valorant were where this laptop really felt at home. CSGO hits an easy 210 FPS on high settings, and Valorant reached a super smooth 300 FPS, so you won't have any issue if competitive gaming is your thing. GTA 5 also ran great, 100 FPS on very high settings, making the gameplay feel smooth and impressive. Even when I pushed it with the Red Dead Redemption 2, a game that's notoriously tough on hardware, it held steady at 47 FPS on ultra settings, which I found pretty impressive for this GPU. That said, I wouldn't expect this machine to handle the latest AAA titles at maxed out settings. If you are mainly into sports or older AAA games, the Nitro V15 does a great job. In my experience, the Nitro V15 with its RTX 2050 is a solid performer for most of the games, but there are some clear limitations. The Nitro V15 gives you solid performance, but there is a bit of a catch when it comes to the noise. But when you're just browsing or doing lighter tasks, it's much quieter at 29 to 30 decibels. As for the audio, the V15 can pump up the volume to 83 decibels. But if you are someone who loves bass that rumbles the room, you might be a little let down. On the plus side, the mids and highs are clear and crisp, so while the sound isn't super impressive, it's more than enough for gaming and media. Overall, it holds up well against other laptops in this price range. When I'm just browsing the web or streaming some videos, power consumption stays pretty low, around 15 to 20 watts. But when I'm multitasking, maybe editing a few videos or playing something light, the power draw bumps up to 40 to 60 watts. Now when I deep dive into gaming or running something intense like rendering or AAA titles, that's when the things get interesting. So to sum it up, the harder I push the device, the more power it's going to pull. Simple as that. Alright, let's talk about the battery in the Nitro V15. It's packing a 57 Wh cell, which for a gaming laptop is alright. Now for everyday stuff, web browsing, streaming or light work, I got about 7 hours and 20 minutes. That's honestly better than I expected. Even with just casual web surfing at 60Hz, it still hits 6 hours, so it's good for day-to-day use. But here's where reality kicks in. Gaming on battery, and yeah, it's not pretty. You will get 1 hour and 35 minutes before it's crying for a charger. Acer includes a 135 watt brick, and this thing is fast. I clocked it 50% in 26 minutes and a full charge in 70 minutes. Here's the verdict. For everyday tasks, the battery is solid. For gaming, basically it's a desktop replacement. You are gonna need that charger close. Powered by the i5-13450HX and RTX 2050, it handles most games and tasks without a hitch. Don't expect it to max out at the latest AAA titles, but it does a good job for the price. The design is simple and practical, nothing over the top, which I actually like, but I did run into a couple of annoyances. The offset in the touchpad and tight power port were a bit frustrating at times. As for the display, it's good enough for day-to-day use, but if you are after color accuracy, it's not going to impress you. For casual gaming and productivity, though, it's worked just fine. So if you are looking for a solid gaming laptop that doesn't break the bank, the Acer Nitro V15 offers great value for what you are paying. It's a solid choice if you are after something that can handle a bit of everything without stretching your budget too much. By the way, if you have already considered picking up the Acer Nitro V15, then you can find the best buying links down below in the description box. They are the affiliate links, so when you make a purchase through them, you are helping me keep the channel running and support more honest reviews like this one. If you found this review helpful, drop a like, hit that subscribe button and tap the bell so you never miss a video. I would love to hear what you think about the Acer Nitro V15, or is there another budget gaming laptop that you are recommending? Thanks for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.